So first of all, I think this is a really good example of the type of kind of cross-disciplinary engagement that's required to address these types of situations of valuing green infrastructure. I'm from a nonprofit. We do a lot of data analysis. To be bookended by two economists is very exciting, both on the public side and on the private consulting side. I think that this is something we're seeing more frequently, both at the federal level, at the municipal level, and certainly the private side, that people are more eager for this kind of interdisciplinary practice, and also kind of fact-checking. So it's nice to be also between the economists, because they can probably provide. Mark certainly has done a lot of work in the actual evaluation process, and we have this great insight from the public side. And Emiko, also thank you very much for that comment about the ratepayer, right? Like that is kind of a critical, kind of often overlooked part of this conversation. And I would just add to that you know, part of the challenge on the public side is to look at progressive rate setting methods and the real cost, the real benefits, and how do you also avoid this concept of having a regressive tax while doing so. So looking at incentives to offsetting the cost to people who might not be getting the true benefit in some senses. But I think that's a great conversation. So I'm Ryan Wilson. I am a landscape architect. I'm based at the Center for Neighborhood Technology in Chicago. We're a nonprofit think and do tank, which is kind of an odd organization, and you may have never heard that phrase before. We are both on kind of the data collection and analysis side, but the unique aspect of our organization is that we actually take that analysis into building tools that help municipalities or homeowners or businesses actually implement the research that we're gathering, and we pilot a lot of projects that allow also those same users to demonstrate on the ground the effects of maybe green infrastructure in the municipality. And we also work at a policy level, so we take those aspects of what we've learned in our pilot projects or in our data analysis and collection and analysis, and take it up to the state or the federal level. We're currently working with both the Illinois, state of Illinois and federal EPA. So CNT as an organization is kind of an oddball. We work in energy, we work in water, we work in transportation and development. We also work in, we have a climate change group, and we have an analysis, a data crunching group. I'm primarily focused on the water program and on stormwater. My particular area of expertise is in community engagement, as well as green infrastructure design and planning, and currently conducting a lot of research on the impacts of urban flooding to municipalities and homeowners in the Great Lakes states. Research that, through conversations with folks throughout the U.S., we feel translates quite well and is applicable. And that research actually grew out of the tools and the research, the frameworks that we built, and I'll be showing to you today. So we'd be happy to talk about that kind of offline later. So today I'm going to be talking about tools for green infrastructure, the tools that Mark will be talking about. We're one of the tools, the Green Benefits Value, the Green Infrastructure Benefits Guide. Mark will be talking about slightly more demonstrated detail. But I'll give you kind of the 10,000-foot view, and I'll probably talk pretty quickly. But feel free to stop me if you have questions, or sorry, I did not translate the metrics, so don't give me some. I don't know what the translation is. So we'll kind of go through it, and feel free to stop me. So CNT got to green infrastructure primarily because we look at inefficiencies in the way that city infrastructure is built and maintained. So in those four areas of energy, climate change, water, transportation, and development, we try to find what is it that's not working, and how can we do this? How can we collect data, and how can we look at the data to inform what might be better decisions or better policies or better actually on-the-ground strategies for making our cities more effective in kind of the long term. We're about 35 years old, though I'm not. But so I've been with CNT pretty recently, and I'm very excited to be sharing this with you guys. So green infrastructure. How we got there, we feel that green infrastructure, and I mean stormwater green infrastructure, not necessarily the conservation fund, big habitat, buffer lands, green infrastructure definition. We see it as a cost-effective and flexible solution for managing stormwater. We see it as a way for preparing communities to changing climate, whether you believe that is a trend or it's just a phenomenon. And offsetting urban heat island effects, increasing energy efficiency, air quality issues, human health and well-being. We also see that green infrastructure crosses multiple disciplines and allows the conversation to get out of the silo of engineering and into kind of a conversation at large. We know that the infrastructure in America, at least, is crumbling. Having received very poor grades from our national engineering organizations with suggestions that the cost to repair this infrastructure is in the billions and the trillions of dollars. It's something that we can't afford to pay. So we need to find cost-effective solutions that work across disciplines, across organizations. The benefits where the projects can be coordinated to provide a greater benefit in the long term. So, in general, we want to value green infrastructure because of these kind of specific goals, just as cities and right-sizing infrastructure, to identify the cumulative impacts of green infrastructure benefits. This triple bottom line piece. And also to standardize the metrics across, not just simply work. We don't simply work in Chicago or in Toledo or in Detroit. We try to set up tools and frameworks that allow LARC to work in Portland or to work across the East Coast, so that when we start to talk about the values of the green infrastructure, we're having a national, consistent conversation that is without the nuance of specific local languages, though that is critical when you actually get down to valuing within your community. You must be able to provide that local nuance, which hopefully we'll get into a little bit later. The first tool that I'm going to talk about is the Green Values Online or Green Values Stormwater Management Calculator. The goal of this calculator was to provide municipalities or developers a quick, easy-to-access online tool that would allow them to look at every specific development project in the context of its total life cycle costs and benefits. It was a tool that we started to develop in 2006, and it's since taken on 3 different versions. There was one that was more specific to Chicago and more specifically to larger greenfield developments, so maybe suburban developments that were quite the rage at the time before the crash. We worked with the City of Chicago and the Department of Environment to develop a stormwater code specific tool for our city, and we worked to develop a national tool, which I'll be showing you today, that we can plug in the data from Seattle and actually get some type of benefit and cost for a specific project specific to the characteristics of this region and its around here. And the second tool I'm going to talk about is the Green Infrastructure and Benefits Guide, which is a framework. It's not an online tool. It's a framework for gathering and assessing the cumulative benefits of green infrastructure. So for the first piece, the Green Infrastructure Values Calculator, and you can actually access this online, greenvalues.cnt.org. And you can see that the variety of the tools. You can also access the methodologies that we use to develop the tools, the data that all the calculations are based upon. The format of the tool is it's a website. There's a number of tabs here at the top. You go through each tab, input the pieces of your the specifics of your project, and down here at the bottom, it's constantly updating the results of the project. It says the green stormwater BMP is applied in the scenario of decrease the site permeable area by 40% and capture 300% of the runoff volume required. Compared to conventional approaches, the green practices in this scenario will decrease the total life cycle construction and maintenance cost by 8%. So the goal here is to, at a very kind of rudimentary planning level, like even before you go planning scale, understand what the potential benefits to different types of green infrastructure practices could be for your project. And again, that project could be a site-specific project where you have a multifamily building that's being retrofitted with a green roof and a new parking lot installed, or it could be a neighborhood project where you're installing 300 new parcels over the course of many acres. So in the calculations, the green components are here on the left side, from green roofs to biofiltration, filter strips, native plants, rain barrels, cisterns, and we can compare those with the conventional approaches in grading infrastructure we've talked about in the past, concrete or gutters, streets, parking lots, turf grass. And the goal here is to understand what is the value of each of those types of applications. So we set up, and I'll walk through this in just a minute, but in one of the tabs on the tool, we actually set up a conventional versus a green development, so that calculation, the results calculation we get at the bottom, is your quick kind of understanding of what the benefit of going green with a particular set of BMPs may be. So Nancy's asked that I show a demonstration project of Chicago. This is Detroit, which is in some places like Chicago, in a place I've worked with in the past. So to start using a calculator like this, first you have to have a site. You have to have some kind of property, it can be hypothetical or not. This one's a real property on the lower side of Detroit. It's 7 parcels, two-thirds of an acre, currently about 94% impervious, along Mac Avenue on the Lower East Side. There's the process of doing this valuation is that you measure all the surfaces, the types of surfaces that are available on the site. We have rooftops, we have back alley, we have sidewalks, parking lots, and we have some turf areas. So the total coverage types we have here of that. So the first data collection site gives us 16,000 square feet of impervious area compared to 14,000 square feet of lawn. Kind of our total, this calculator is based on site area. So it's so you do kind of site area takeoff again, and then jump into the calculations, which I'll get into in just a minute. It's based on a pretty serious data review at the time. This data review occurred in 2008 or 2009. And this, you can find this in the methodology to look at it in more detail. A number of people use it for understanding what the cost of green infrastructure might be for their project, regardless of whether they're using the calculator or not. It's a really good resource for people who are looking at costs for BMP practices. So we have construction costs, maintenance costs, component lifespan, that life cycle piece down there at the end. And we go from kind of the low range, this is for rain gardens, roughly $5 a square foot, up to a high range of 16. We use the mid-range in our calculations for all 3 methods. So you start by kind of calibrating the site to your zip code. We should step back and say that CAT is data heavy. We do our analysis, and our data analytics group does a lot of collection of open source data, and we try to utilize that as much as possible to develop tools that are applicable across the nation. So this online tool is based on a pretty robust backend, which we think has the opportunity in a lot of places to be opened up and used not just in the US but elsewhere. So using zip codes, your annual rainfalls, the type of storm event it actually is, some of these things are set. This is the national calculator, so if you put a 90% storm type in, it gives you a rainfall total. And the other critical piece of this page is the type of soil you have in this municipality. The second set is kind of to set your pre-development expectations. So what was the site like before? What was the impervious area? What was the wall under fair condition? And then you set up, you identify your reduction goals. In this, so the example here is that we set up kind of our baseline for pre-development, and then look at, the tool gives you a required volume to capture on site. So you set your precipitation depth of capture, and it gives you kind of the value that you're trying to meet at the end of the day, which you'll see in the final calculations. You can also choose whether that volume is captured over the whole site or just the site of development. And you can also use goals that are specific to the region. So you can select Chicago out of that goal that will give you the anticipated or the stormwater code capture goals. It's also should be noted that the precipitation depth capture is either above ground or rain gardens or within the engineered DAP. So calculable measurements. We we have assumptions for subgrade. So to that question of rain garden versus bioinfiltration, for this tool, a rain garden is typically a dished swale without a modified substrate. Bioinfiltration tends to be an engineered solution with some kind of detention volume below. So the things we saw in Ballard yesterday were 5 feet of stone, bioinfiltration. If it was just somebody digging out a ditch in the front yard and planting it, that's a rain garden. They tend to, not everybody does that, there's differentiation, but they tend to track along residential versus commercial or engineered use. So we identify our capture volume, and then we set up our conventional development baseline. So this is what might happen on a property if it was to be developed without any green infrastructure BMPs. Set up your roof size, your sidewalks. There's a number of different inputs you can add here. And then you set up, it looks like my drawing did not translate, but then you set up kind of like what the potential, what your projected green BMPs might be for that site. So for this project that we're using numbers given to us by the developer. They were going to do 100% green roof on the building. They were going to do 4,000 square foot rain garden, swales, native vegetation, and trees. We put that into the calculator, and there's some parameters you can tweak about cost and life cycle span. And what we get is this initial valuation. In this case, what we found is that it decreased the site permeable area by roughly 50%, increased the capture by 120%, and increased the total life cycle construction and maintenance cost by 290%. So if you're looking at this, right, if you're looking at this problem and you want to do all the green solutions, that you're excited about the green roof, you're excited about adding a lot of trees to the site, you realize that that's maybe not your best investment. It's not going to provide the best return on your investment for sure, unless you just happen to have an extra. A lot of money to do so. So what I like about this tool is it's actually a way to test and play around. And CMT, as an organization, likes to build tools that are interactive. They don't give you one solution. They give you opportunity to kind of create a lot of solutions for the problem, knowing that municipalities are different requirements, there are different costs in different municipalities for construction of EMPs. So using the green infrastructure calculator, you usually don't get it right on the first go around, but we did find out, certainly through our research and the research that Dimiko was showing, things like rain gardens are more cost effective for most management of stormwater green infrastructure. So this is the tool. Do you guys have immediate questions? Because I'm going to jump into the next framework that we use. You love that. You're going to use it. That's awesome. It all translates, doesn't it? It's good. So the Green Infrastructure Benefits Guide actually grew out of the work that we were doing with the calculators. The goal of the calculators were to provide a quick best guess of what is the cost of green infrastructure, a suite of green infrastructure practices for a particular project. But this idea came up with, well, what if you want to value all of your projects? What if you want to value your portfolio of projects? How can the calculator really be scaled up to be useful for a city or to a large property manager or somebody who really is eager to understand the total benefits? And also, I should say that the green infrastructure value of the benefits guide tries to get at the cumulative benefits of all the cumulative benefits of green infrastructure that might not be brought into that maintenance and lifespan, the life cycle costs that we were seeing in that earlier tool. So the guide's for stakeholders who are evaluating green infrastructure and people who are making decisions, and also for people who are making the case. So we're currently working with a number of municipalities who they understand that green infrastructures can be valuable, but they need to kind of quantify that cost to their ratepayers, to their stakeholders. So it's assisting communities in evaluating effective future water construction decisions that utilize funds most efficiently while providing the most benefit. We want to get at that initial problem of having infrastructure that's degraded and that we can't afford to upgrade. We want to figure out what is the best investment for us, regardless of whether it's green or gray. So this is kind of where the project started. This is a project. This is a diagram that predates me, and my colleague who left CNT before I got there calls it the yellow submarine. That might translate. It really is kind of getting at the cumulative benefits that green infrastructure provides. So these different sets: benefit, bioretention benefits, benefits from trees, benefits from permeable pavers, water harvesting, green roofs, green walls. And also these diagrams, functions that provide benefits. We could go through this whole thing, but it's boiled down to what became the guide that Nancy held up a little bit later on, or a little bit earlier on. So you can see it's kind of a complex framework for actually valuing that portfolio of investments you have. But those benefits we're actually looking at are the water, energy, air quality, climate change, urban heat island, community livability, habitat improvement, public education. It's not a comprehensive list. It's the benefits that we can address at the time based upon the thorough research or thorough analysis of data that we could judge as being good value. There's also, we could go into more detail, I think, about the methods of that collection. But what came out of it is the structure of the guide is that there are benefits down. There's 18 benefits up here along the top across the top of this diagram. It's measured against 5 practices: the green roofs, the tree plantings, fire retention and infiltration, permeable pavements, water harvesting. And roughly the full filled-in circle means yes, there is an absolute benefit. The half circle is maybe there might be a benefit, or the hollowed-out circle is no, there's not a clear benefit right now. So you might see in this example of fire retention and infiltration that there are reduction in stormwater runoff benefits, as well as air quality and habitat. And in terms of what this section is saying, how we're valuing it, reduction in stormwater runoff it creates kind of a storing and infiltrating of water, which reduces pollution, entering local waterways, which mitigates impacts of flooding, just as an example. It also reduces urban heat island effect by cooling and reduction in surface albedo, which mitigate urban heat island effect as well as reduce energy use. So it's that kind of complex addition of 2 different types of analysis that there are plenty of papers out there on each of these, but it's bringing them together that was the unique aspect of this guide and why we're eager to see it used more frequently. The actual process of doing evaluation is first to kind of identify your primary benefit, which for the guide is climate change. The unit that we were using was reduction in atmospheric carbon. The first primary step is actually to quantify the benefits that you could achieve, and that's done in total pounds of atmospheric carbon, avoided or reduced, and then actually provide a value to that, to those quantified benefits. So for an example, if we're getting close to the end of this, for an example, benefits of a single roof under the benefit of reduced energy use, the annual buildings cooling savings might be 1,100 kilowatts, and the annual buildings heating natural gas savings might be 36 million BTUs. And that provides us a benefit valuation of $107 for a 5,000 square foot green roof, and $450 of heat savings over the course of a year. Now, you might think that's not a lot. If you start to scale that up to the neighborhood scale or to a city scale, you start to get much more significant values annually. And then you can start to look at this over the lifetime of projects, or hopefully capitalize on this, finding funding mechanisms for investment in green infrastructure in the future. So if we go back to the original goals, assisting cities in right-sizing infrastructure and investments, identifying the cumulative impact of all the GI benefits, and standardizing these measures, I would just add that there are other really important reasons why somebody might engage with tools like this or frameworks like this, primarily to set goals for development. So you actually have something that you're looking for in the future. Identifying new partnerships. What I think is really exciting and something that is exceptional about this, the way the CT normally works, is that we engage both with homeowners and private industry and municipalities and agencies to have this conversation about why we're doing this valuation, and in that process identifying who else could be brought to the table, who else might have information for this type of valuation, which helps us to identify future research goals or priority areas that we'll research in the future. So that's what we'll call it. Are there questions? Yeah, sure. Back there, Conan?
Yeah. What scale have you used the benefits guide at? Has it gone up to a county level, or?
Yeah,
is there a level of
Mark's going to talk
accuracy
about that a little bit. We're currently working with the city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to value all of their built and planned green infrastructure, which, blanking on the number of sites that it encompasses, but it's their entire town. And I think it's a town of 120,000 or so.
And are there limitations associated with going up to the higher scale?
I don't know the answer. I don't think that there are limitations.
I'm interested in large floods and drought, and you're talking about stormwater, but there are benefits in the cumulative effect of these techniques and first flush techniques in terms of just flooding potential. Do you look at those also in terms of something in the 25, 30, 50-year flood range on the effect of these over a larger basin?
Well, I think urban flooding is a critical part of this conversation, and that actually maybe defer to Mark in this conversation as well, this question as well, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Answer?
Since your tools for the U.S. and U.S. safety, do you have any recommendations for also another country?
Yeah. So CNT is kind of it's a bit of a hacker culture. All the materials online, and if you know how to code and you can make call requests on our tools, and input your own data. So if you're interested in doing that, we can open it up for you. We've talked about making that a little bit more user friendly for different audiences, and would be eager to talk about that in the future. That's a good question. So the question is, how do you use the soil type at a municipal scale for a city that has quite variable soil conditions across the city? I'm guessing you're asking about the calculator. So if you want to use the calculator, then there is a drop-down box. You can choose your soil type, main and D. So you would approximate the best soil type for the condition that you're looking at. So you wouldn't be using the calculator at the city scale. You might be using the benefits guide at the city scale. It's a tool for estimation. It's not a tool for kind of the fine-grained engineering calculations you back to the city and saying this is the value I'm bringing. Let's talk about it. Anything else?
I have a question about soil. I'd like to elaborate more on that.
No, it was too difficult when the school was being developed to actually figure out. So we're not looking at infiltration rates. We're looking at storage volume of BMPs. So once it gets in there and it's filled up, what is that? We're not looking at how quickly that's draining out. Though there is one of the calculators that does look at rally and infiltration, but it looks like it's larger parcels.
Yeah, I think we have in Denmark similar tools, but it's just not as standardized as you showed.
Okay.
And it's not online. It's not an online tool, so it's very interesting to hear about it. What I think about is it's very hard for me to see what your assumptions are, of course, when you look through it that quickly.
Yeah.
And think about, for instance, your green roof. When you consider the advantages of having a green roof, how much water do you hold back per year for a green roof?
Offhand, I don't know, but all of that information is actually in the methodology you can find on the website if you wanted to go
Okay.
through it.
It's online as well? Or?
Yeah, if you were to go to the C&T's website, Green Values Calculator, it's listed on the sidebar. Yeah, it gives you kind of how the whole thing is structured, what our assumptions for all BMPs